Kansas City Chiefs. What do they need? Nothing. They just won the Super Bowl. Super Bowl team never needs anything. They just...
Oh, okay. So they need defense. Like, their defense didn't get good. It just got better than bad. Like, it was no longer the reason they were losing games.
Everybody goes, they were 7th in points against. They weren't as good as any of those numbers.
No.
They were decent. They crept back toward average.
Yes.
Depth at cornerback.
And again,
and continuing to build that secondary. Makes sense, though.
So a bit like the Sean McDermott conversation, right? It's like it was the results were greater than the sum of the parts, right? Which means effectively coaching. So they, in transitioning from we play man coverage every single snap and that's how we lose, to I don't care what it is we do, let's figure out what the best thing to do to stop you is. That makes a massive difference regardless of how everybody is playing. So people can still play not that great, and the results are better because you're making life more difficult for the offense, who is now executing worse than they would be if you just played man coverage every snap.
So that makes me think of like a philosophy question, right? Is it better then in today's NFL where it's easier to predict offense than defense, right? Are you better off having a Spagnuolo, a McDermott / Leslie Frazier, guys that you really trust to get the most out of your defensive players? You know, they might never have the top defense in the league, but they're just going to get the most out of what's back there. So you don't have to invest talent-wise in the defense as much, and you can go all in on the offensive side of the ball.
But again, I think it's like if he's done this with this level of talent, what happens if you move the talent upwards? I think it only gets better. I just think the philosophical question is, and I don't even think it's a question at this point, is that I think you are better off focusing on defense on a game plan in a game plan strategy as opposed to a system. Like, we play this defensive system every single week, and when we run up against a team that's good against this defensive system, we are screwed. I think you're way better at going, well, okay, we're not going to do that. We're going to figure out what the best thing to play against the offense that we're coming up against is, because ultimately that's the whole point of this, is to stop them. And I think Belichick has done that for his entire career. One of the reasons I think people didn't do it is because it's harder, right? You need these guys to be good at everything. But I think the league has trended in that direction anyway. Nobody plays man coverage every snap anymore. Like, even the teams that play man coverage only play at like 50-odd% of the plays. You know, nobody's playing 95% man coverage anymore. It just doesn't happen. So you already expect these guys to be able to do everything, at which point embrace that and just like lean into it with the game plans every single week.
The Colts were doing that a little bit with Eberflus too. It went unnoticed because they didn't make the playoffs this year versus the previous year. They played a ton of zone. They just had, I don't know that it's changed the game plan every week so much as either, like, the Colts they played to their talent. They hid their talent in a zone scheme. I think the Chiefs did more of that than they did game planning specifically for their opponents this year. Mm-hmm. Is hiding their talent in a scheme that made sense. And, maybe that's the way to go. The trick is making sure that you have a defensive coordinator, I guess, that you can trust too, right?
Yeah. And look, sometimes it's not going to be enough. Like, you're still going to lose.
Either way, I think
able to execute.
Either way, the Chiefs do need to add more talent on the defensive side of the ball if they want to look to repeat. Denver Broncos. What are you thinking here for Denver? They've invested at the wide receiver position the last couple of years, but they lost Emmanuel Sanders in the trade. Cortland Sutton emerged. They, another team that's going to be in the wide receiver market, do what they can to build around Drew Lock.
Wide receiver and cornerback, I think they're two big ones.
Chris Harris, free agent.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, Cortland Sutton, I think, has emerged as a really good wide receiver, but you need more than one guy in today's NFL. You need a core. Emmanuel Sanders, they traded away. They need to replace that level of production, that level of talent, and restock that position, particularly if you do have faith that you have Drew Lock as the future of the quarterback position. Noah Fant should help in terms of a matchup weapon, a tight end, but you need another receiver as well. And then, cornerback with Chris Harris, arguably your greatest player over the last decade, probably moving on in free agency. We spoke to him at the Super Bowl, little Radio Row interview.
When are we dropping this interview? We were going to do it today. I haven't teased it yet. You want to do it right now?
Yeah.
We spoke to Chris Harris.
YouTube people won't.
We've got it queued up.
We'll throw it in.
YouTube won't be able to hear it, but you guys can download the podcast. That's a good excuse to get our YouTube listeners, viewers,
to go download the
podcast. So for podcast listeners only, here is our Chris Harris interview from the combine where I asked him where he's going to go. And he asked me where he should go.
Okay.
Here we go. Chris Harris, Broncos free agent. And we're back.
So the
podcast listeners.
Yeah, the important point to take out of that is that he's definitely going. Of all the potential destinations, one of them wasn't Denver.
Don't tease it out too much.
I'm just saying that of all the destinations that we were talking about, Denver was not amongst them. Consequently, the Broncos need a cornerback because their best one is leaving.
Look at you with your inside info, because we had the interview and we had the... Go listen to it just to hear the woman falling in the background and how we all had to be professional.
Except Chris.
We were all professional. Chris is he's professional in something. He's professional in sports.
Chris was all looking for the blooper reel. I mean,
I know he was. Anyway, go check it out if you guys are on YouTube when it posts on the Apple, iTunes, the whole deal. Apple iTunes. I meant iTunes.
Nice, yeah, slick.
Is it still called iTunes?
Yeah, right. I mean, Apple Podcasts, whatever.
Apple Podcasts. Just go
wherever
listen.
you
listen to podcasts, go listen.
You know it's there. Go get
Let's
it.
round out the AFC. 2 more teams: Oakland/Las Vegas Raiders. So
it is. It's Vegas. It's done. It's happened. The transition has been made. They're in Las Vegas.
I think the league calendar starts the second Tuesday of March or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think they're the Oakland Raiders until the league calendar starts.
They're not. They had the unveiling of they transitioned. They're done. They've had the operation, the snip. It's over.
I need to have that as well. Or else I won't be able to win that most reproductive employee award anymore.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. Well, the Raiders are now the Vegas Raiders.
We need to change the article. It's confusing me.
Well, okay.
I like to wait till the calendar year that's when the snip happens.
Yeah.
Move it over to Las Vegas.
Fair enough. The Raiders probably need a quarterback. Even how bummed is Derek Carr going to be when he's got his fancy new house?
I don't think they need a quarterback
next to John Gruden, and they're going to move on from him.
I'm okay with Derek Carr.
Do you think he'll still move to the house and just sit there staring at Gruden every time from his
Derek
porch?
Carr. So now I'm going to contradict myself. Derek Carr was the guy who just missed my outlier season breakdown. If Tannehill didn't happen,
year.
What
for his 2016?
His 2016 year.
Yeah.
If Tannehill didn't happen, Carr probably would have made the list. Okay. Now, he's had some grades in the 70s and all that stuff. I think he was like an 86 passing grade. You know what this also stemmed from? Essentially, 9 quarterbacks have 90%. What is it? 82% of our top 50 grades of the decade. Mm-hmm. So 9 different quarterbacks. 4 quarterbacks make up 50% of them. So 25 out of the top 50 passing grade seasons were Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, and Manning. Then when you throw Big Ben, Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan, Andrew Luck, and Phillip Rivers into the mix, that's 82% of the top 50. And then Patrick Mahomes has another 2, so that's even more. And he looks like the guy that's going to stay. That was where this all came from. Derek Carr just missed having one of these top 50 seasons. And it was 2016. And it was another year where out of the blue, he was throwing the ball down the field more. He had a higher percentage of positively graded throws. He had a great rapport with Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree. And it looked like it was the natural progression, right? 14 wasn't that great. 15 was good. 16 was excellent. And okay, we're off to the races, and here we go. And now we have 3 more years where he hasn't even come back and duplicated that all along across 2 different systems with different types of playmakers and all that stuff. All that said, I still think I'm okay with chasing it, because if they go heavy on playmaker, can we just get him to throw the ball down the field a little bit more? He is capable. He can do it. Matthew Stafford did it this year. He went from conservative to aggressive. Do you think he could do it? What are you laughing at?
I think chasing the high level Derek Carr just feels like it's going to be a painful process.
So Carr has a better, and this is how NFL teams get into trouble here. Carr has a better body of work than Ryan Tannehill had. Yeah. Before Ryan Tannehill had this. This is where teams make bad decisions. They're going to talk themselves into it, because people are going to start thinking they could turn everybody into 1-year Tannehill after 8 years of mediocrity. But Carr has a better baseline than that.
Yeah, but the whole point is people gave up on Tannehill, and now he had this season out of nowhere. Like, he didn't. It's not like it's not like we'd invested in Tannehill expecting this outlier to come to fruition because he had that talent. No, he crapped out. He was done. The Titans brought him in as a backup just as an emergency option in case something happened to Mariota. And it turns out the thing that happened to him was he sucked for 6 weeks of the season. So we had to bench him. Tannehill comes in, plays out of his mind for the rest of the season, and now we're in a problem spot of crap. What do we do with that? Because that's not going to happen again. So we franchise tag him. But like Carr, like he had his role a few years ago, and he's never got back to that level. So, you know, do we keep chasing this endlessly? Or do we eventually go, look, it's not coming back. Let's find someone that is better.
I'd be flirting at least. But I also think they're another team that just needs to invest heavily in playmakers and back seven. Really secondary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all pass game driven.
I mean, honestly, the entire defense could use an upgrade pretty much across the board.
Yeah, agreed. I thought Trevon Mullin was okay as a rookie. I still didn't like him as the 40th player in the draft. Jonathan Abram, we didn't get to see, but he was a run-stopping safety. Another thing, Josh Jacobs was an excellent running back, but he was unable to really move the needle for this team that needs to be able to win in the pass game. And I don't know. I'm also believing that you can get this aggressiveness out of Derek Carr and his A-dot of 6 and like blowouts and stuff like that. Like, somebody's got to get him throwing the ball down the field because he's capable and he can do it. And I think I'd probably at least give that one more shot if I had. They're the team I would double up at receiver with as well. Them and Green Bay and maybe a couple others. Double up at receiver and you got to give that a shot.
They are the team. I mean, I think at this point you have to treat Derek Carr like he's Alex Smith and say, okay.
Oh, if like a Mahomes comes, yeah,
we can coax the greatest season of his life out of Alex Smith. On the other hand, maybe the best way of doing that is to draft his replacement.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Try and make him do it that way.
And all that's he does play a lot like Alex Smith in the conservative nature and takes care of the ball and all that stuff. But I think he's more capable than Alex Smith of being the gunslinger, chunk play guy. Instead of, like, again, I don't know how ingrained
Alex Smith
it is.
was always capable of it. He just didn't.
I think Carr's got better arm talent to do that, I would say, consistently. Like, Alex Smith, I've always defended and said, I've seen it. I've seen flashes he could do it. But Carr's done some, like, special stuff throwing the ball down the field at his peak.
I don't think Alex Smith's arm was ever a problem. He just didn't ever do it.
So, whole roster?
Yeah.
In Las Vegas?
Pretty much. I mean, Josh Jacobs can stay. He's good.
Yeah, whole roster in anything
Darren
pass
Waller,
game related.
Turns out he's good.
Yeah.
Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs can stay.
Build around those guys.
Everyone else is on borrowed time. We can replace them. Max Crosby dramatically outplayed Cleveland Ferrell.
He did. It was a nice 4th-round pick. He did not outplay Nick Bosa, though.
No, not even close.
All right, let's wrap it up.
Most other edge rushers.
With the Los Angeles Chargers. And we went, other than we've got quarterback, of course. You got to figure out the quarterback situation. They're going to be in the market to draft. Are they in the Herbert Tua sweepstakes? Where do they go there?
I saw a thing
Jordan Love.
That was, we are, this day X number of years ago, and it was the Los Angeles Chargers got the okay to move to San Diego because they effectively were tired of being in the shadow of the Los Angeles Rams and needed to find their own fan base. Now they've gone back to Los Angeles where they're not just in the shadow of the Rams, but actually in their stadium, as a tenant.
I don't even understand.
They're like living in the nanny flat in the basement.
I don't understand. I don't know the history of it that well. I know when the teams moved and all that stuff. I don't understand the NFL's need to push teams back to Los Angeles.
I definitely understand that. I don't understand the need to push the Chargers back to Los Angeles. The Rams make sense. The Chargers makes no sense.
Do the Rams make sense, though?
Yes.
It's not like they've got the best situation over there either.
No, but they weren't there that long ago. They have a colossal investment in a new stadium complex.
Yeah, I like the Rams. They're better than the
And Los
Chargers,
Angeles is one of the biggest media markets in the country. So that makes perfect sense to me. Plus, at the time they were moving them, they were really good.
Yeah.
Which helps. The Chargers have none of that going for them because they're a tenant in somebody else's stadium. They have no fan base to speak of because they moved a long time before that. They didn't have the best of fan bases in the world in San Diego, let alone back in Los Angeles. And they're not good. They've got, there's no. It's a bad move. Bad idea.
Anyway, the Chargers, I mean, this is like
O-line.
The 10th straight year we've said O-line and interior D-line for them.
Yeah, only this time now you need a quarterback because he's no longer capable of overcoming the bad offensive line, and he's probably leaving.
And he's not signed.
Yeah.
Right. The difficult part here is they've tried to address the O-line. They did it a couple years ago in the draft. They put some draft capital into it. They have to keep going.
Yeah.
That's the frustrating part from a team building standpoint, is when you just can't fill those immediate needs. First off, you don't want to draft needs, and then if you do and you miss, by the time you're going to fix those needs, you have other ones, and that's part of the issue.
I think there's some teams that are just bad at evaluating offensive linemen, because the Vikings have this problem as well. They keep swinging. Like, it's hard to accuse them of not investing in the offensive line, because between free agency, Riley Reif, they brought in guys, Mike Remmers, it's already done and been finished with that. They've drafted guys, first rounders. They've thrown a lot at this, and almost all of them are bad, or at least not good. They haven't actually fixed anything. So, okay, do you just keep doing it, or do you try and find another option? Because, remember the Raiders a few years ago during that 2016 Carr season, they actually assembled one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, and they did it unusually by free agency. They actually invested money, significant money, in this group, and because of that, it lasted less time than these lines that are built through the draft, where you get like a few years of cheapness and then you can sort of upgrade it over time. The Raiders assembled this thing, and for like a 1 year, it was really, really good, and then it kind of fell apart pretty quickly. But is that what a team like the Chargers need to do? Where they need to go, okay, we're bad at drafting these guys. We can't project them. Whatever it is, it's a hole in the system. We can work on the back end, but for the moment, this is a more acute need than that. Let's start throwing money and draft capital at any offensive lineman that moves that's got a proven track record at the NFL level.
Yeah,
is that the answer?
It's one of my favorite things about football and team building is there are different ways to do it. And when the Raiders did that back in 2016, I mean, they had Donald Penn, Kelechi Osemele, Rodney Hudson, Gabe Jackson. They were awesome. And then it was like Austin Howard played right tackle. He was the worst player, and he's like, reasonable for a right tackle. You're right, though. It was tough to sustain. I am a big fan. From an O-line standpoint, I think you have to get guys from everywhere. I think you have to get like an Austin Howard type, a guy that's done it at a half-decent level at some point in his career. Like Jared Valdir the last couple of years. Like maybe you could just, and he could be part of your mediocre line. You have to draft some guys and hope that they develop, because they're the hardest position to play well early, which is what makes Ryan Ramczyk, what he's doing, so special right now. And some of these other guys, Quentin Nelson, it's tough to bank on them early. And then you have a guy like Laramie Tunsil who did develop in year 4. I mean, part of the trick, I think, is getting those guys in year 3, 4, or 5, even though someone else drafted them.
Yeah.
That's when they're going to be taking their biggest leap. I think that could be part of the trick for the Chargers. Maybe trade for a guy that's about to get paid somewhere else and lock him up. So let some other team deal with the developmental years, and then you snatch him up as he's going to take that step forward. So maybe that's part of the Chargers strategy. But just drafting another 2 linemen, if they're not good and they don't develop, then you're in the same situation in a couple of years. And then interior D-line, Jerry Tillery was a big disappointment, and they've got edge defenders, they've got guys that can cover on the back end. Same story for the Chargers. If they can get a little bit more interior push, even if they move guys around off the edge, if they can get a little bit more interior push, helps that D quite a bit.
Yeah. And then, of course, quarterback.
And the quarterback situation.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.